Did you know that the foods that you eat every day can influence how well you age? And a few of them might actually help you live longer. I'm talking about living longer with better health. Our blood vessels become less resilient from when we're younger to when we're older, drive many of the diseases that we associate with aging. Everything from heart disease to cancer to dementia. But here's the good news. What you eat can directly influence these hallmarks of aging, and that will help us combat the deterioration that we associate with getting older. Snorts. And if you had to choose just a handful of foods to eat regularly to support your longevity, do you know what you'd choose? Today, I want to share information about 5 foods that you should consider eating and why. What is the science actually telling us? Music. The first food is something that you may already use every day, but you might not realize how powerful it is, and that is extra virgin olive oil. Now, I always keep a couple of bottles of extra virgin olive oil in my kitchen at all times, and the reason is extra virgin olive oil is at the heart of a healthy Mediterranean cooking, which we know is a healthy way of eating, and there is human evidence to support this. Now, before I tell you about olive oil, well, I want to talk a little bit about what I mean when I'm referring to longevity, because I'm not just talking about living longer, I'm talking about living longer with better health. That length of better health is called health span, and it's actually a parallel concept to lifespan, which is just how many candles you put on your birthday cake. Health span is actually much more meaningful. How many years do you get to live in really good health? Now, what's important to know is that as we're getting older, there are changes that are happening inside our body that we can't see and that affect our cells. These are known as the hallmarks of aging, meaning things that are characteristic of aging itself. And some of the things that researchers have identified are inflammation, which increases as we get older, our blood vessels, which become less resilient as we age, and our metabolism, which shifts into less healthy patterns from when we're younger to when we're older, and changes in our gut microbiome, our healthy gut bacteria. Now, these shifts in health drive many of the diseases that we associate with aging, everything from heart disease to cancer to dementia, for example. But here's the good news. What you eat can directly influence these processes, these hallmarks of aging, and that will help us combat the ravages, the destruction, the deterioration that we associate with getting older. And we are seeing this, by the way, in human studies. So I want to go back and let's revisit what we know about extra virgin olive oil. You'll notice I'm not talking about just olive oil, but extra virgin olive oil. So Evo was actually extra virgin olive oil, was studied in the Nurses' Health Study and the Health Professionals' Follow-Up Study. These are 2 massive clinical studies, population studies, that found that people who consumed higher amounts of extra virgin olive oil had a 19% lower risk of death from any cause. Now, in research, this endpoint is called all-cause mortality. It's a pretty broad category, okay? But it just shows you how powerful there is with an association of one factor, in this case, extra virgin olive oil, with all-cause mortality. Extra virgin olive oil is also associated with meaningful reductions in death from cardiovascular disease, specifically from cancer specifically and from dementia specifically. And the study actually looked also at how much extra virgin olive oil was linked to the benefit. I call that the dose. And it turns out the beneficial dose for extra virgin olive oil is not very much, just 1 to 4 tablespoons of Evo per day. Let's call it 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Now, you might think that's pretty tough. I don't know if I could actually take 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, but if you eat like a Mediterranean, super easy to get that dose. Let me just kind of give you a couple of examples. If you are making breakfast and you scramble some eggs, not with butter, but with extra virgin olive oil, that's one way to get part of your first tablespoon in. Then for lunch, let's say you're having a salad with an extra virgin olive oil dressing. Whip it up with some balsamic vinegar, for example. Got to make sure it's extra virgin. It's got the polyphenols. Now you're about halfway there. Dinner, you're going to roast some chicken or salmon or some veggies that are roasted. You're going to dress it with some extra virgin olive oil. Boom. You are done. You have just gotten your 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil right there. So now I want to explain how extra virgin olive oil works to benefit your health. The first thing you need to know is that everything that's good in extra virgin olive oil is present in the olive itself, which is the fruit of the olive tree. It gets pressed. A lot of good stuff's in the olive water. The rest of it's actually in extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin means that you're not filtering it. First press, you've probably seen that on the side of a container. That means that the extra virgin olive oil, which has got some color to it, it's kind of greenish. That means it's containing the polyphenols from the olive like hydroxyol and oleoanthol. Don't worry about the pronunciation. They're tongue twisters unless you're people like me who actually do the research on it. Hydroxyolocanthol, guess what? They are anti-inflammatory and they also protect the lining of your blood vessels so that you have better circulation, okay? And that's really important because a healthier blood vessels is closely tied to the health of all of your other organs, especially as you age. Now, to get the most out of extra virgin olive oil, here's some important tips. First, always buy extra virgin olive oil when it's in an opaque glass container or a metal container like a tin, all right? Not clear glass. Sometimes see that in the grocery store. Or plastic. Absolutely not. Microplastics will shed right in there. But clear glass light, when it gets into the container, you can see the olive oil. Of course, when light gets in there, you'll actually start to degrade the quality of the oil. Oh, the other thing is that the plastic actually dissolves right into the olive oil because the extra virgin olive oil is potent enough, it'll actually start to degrade and dissolve the plastic. Second, to get the most out of extra virgin olive oil, store it bring it home in a cool, dark place, like in your pantry with the door shut, okay? Any place it's cool is fine, even under your sink, not next to the stove, not next to a window, all right? Because the high heat from cooking and sunlight from your window will break down some of those beneficial polyphenols, those anti-inflammatory substances in your extra virgin olive oil. Third way to get the most out of extra virgin olive oil is to look for what I call monovarietal olive oils. This means that the olive oil was pressed from just one kind, one variety of olives, monovarietals. The varietals that are pressed actually naturally have the highest levels of polyphenols. More good stuff. That's what I'm looking for. And the good news, if you're looking for Spanish olive oil, okay? But look for monovar. You look for on the container, whether it's glass or whether it's satin, you look for PQL olives. PICUAL. PQL olives. High polyphenols. All right. For Italian extra virgin olive oil. All right, you want to look for monovarietals made with the variety of olive called Moriolo, Moraio, Moriolo or Coratina olives, Coratina, Carina olives. Now, what about Greek olive oil, one of my favorites. Greek olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, monovital pressed from Coroni olives. That's Koroneiki. Koriki olives have the highest amounts of polyphenols among the Greek olives and have been studied in human studies as well as by analytical chemists, looking at the different types of comparing the different kinds of extra virgin olive oil. Get those Spanish, Italian, Greek. All right, you get those monovarietals. That's how you actually get the highest potency type of olive oil. All right, ready for the second food? Walnuts. Now, I love walnuts. I always try to keep some in my pantry for snacking or cooking. You know, it's part of a tree nut family, like almonds, pistachios, cashews, walnuts. But I can tell you that walnuts in large studies that look at nut consumptions, including that Nurses' Health study and a health professional follow-up study, which I told you about earlier, those people who ate lots of tree nuts had about a 20% lower risk of death from any cause just by eating tree nuts, including walnuts. And how much do you need to eat to get that benefit? Well, the dose is about a small handful a day, roughly about an ounce. And if you're talking about walnuts, it's about 14 walnut halves or 7 whole walnuts. 14 walnut halves, just to think about snacking on them. And so, what's really interesting to look at is how does this work? How are walnuts beneficial? Well, walnuts contain several useful bioactives, including omega-3 fatty acids, okay, plus alpha linoleic acid along with lactic acid. They also have monounsaturated fats. They also have dietary fiber, and they're actually a good source of plant proteins as well. So together, all of these bioacts can help reduce inflammation, support blood vessel health, support your metabolism, and overall tissue healing as well. And this matters because inflammation and problems with your blood vessels and problems your metabolism are all closely tied to how we age. So any foods that we eat, like a walnut as part of tree nuts, it can improve all those functions, lower inflammation, improve vascular health, improve your metabolism. That's actually how you lower the risk of chronic disease. Now, one of the things that I see is that when people replace ultra-processed foods with whole foods like nuts, their metabolism, actually improves in measurable ways. And that shift matters over time. So, if you want to get the most out of walnuts, here's a couple of simple tips of what you can actually do. A lot of people don't know about this, but I'm actually going to share those with you. First of all, when you're buying for walnuts, look for the intact walnut halves. Let's look like a butterfly, okay? Rather than a small crumbs or mashed up pieces. And the reason is that the walnut halves actually will stay fresh longer and they're less prone to oxidation. Now, that fat, the healthy fat in a walnut, will oxidize and make it go rancid. When you have the whole wings, the two halves, it actually stays fresher longer. When you get home with your walnuts, walnut halves, store them in a sealed container, not in the pantry, not in the counter, in the refrigerator. When you seal it so you prevent air from getting in, put it in the fridge. That will extend their shelf life and it'll protect those omega-3s. Keep them at room temperature. Those omega-3s, healthy fats, will start to break down. So, the great news, walnuts are so easy to incorporate into your everyday habits. Keep some as a snack trail mix. All right, do that definitely instead of a bag of ultra-processed chips. So here's a food that supports your gut health. The fiber feeds a healthy gut bacteria, as does the polyphenols, and support your metabolism, your circulation, and the protein will help support your muscle mass as well. So as you're starting to see, these foods, even though they are beneficial for different parts of your body, they all point in the same direction. They give you better health span as you age, at any age. So you could be a young person, you want to age healthy. This is a way to actually get there. You don't have to be just somebody in their midlife or older than midlife trying to recuperate what they don't want to lose. At any stage, you can actually optimize your health span. Now, most people don't realize how much everyday foods can influence how they age. So, subscribe to my channel to understand how to actually use foods to support your health. Next food, one of my favorites, coffee. I have it every day. I literally start my day with this healthy aging beverage. In large population studies involving more than 500,000 people, 500,000 people, it found that those who regularly drank coffee had about a 15 to 25% lower risk of death from any cause. So this is really about longevity, right? If you remove death from any cause, you're going to be living longer. And here's the thing about coffee. What was the amount associated with the benefit, of lower risk of death from any cause? 2 to 5 cups of coffee per day. Can you do that? I do it every single day. I'm sure you can do it. So let's take a look at what's in coffee. Turns out that there's polyphenols in coffee as well. Coffee is made from roasted beans from the coffee tree. Contains hundreds of polyphenols, including ones like chlorogenic acid and caffeic acid. These are both antioxidants. They protect your cells from accelerated aging. They're good for your metabolism. They're good for your circulation, all right? And they all reduce inflammation as well. Coffee also supports liver health. And by the way, drinking coffee is associated with a lower risk of chronic liver disease. Coffee also benefits brain health. Very important as we age, right? You want good health span. You also want good brain health span. Really important. So coffee does a lot more than, kind of juice you up with little caffeine, make you more alert in the morning. Does that too? But it supports multiple health systems in your body that are very important for healthy aging and longevity. So how do you get the most out of your coffee? Well, keep these things in mind. Number 1, avoid flavored or sweetened coffee. I know it's fall time. You want to get the pumpkin flavored whatever in a drive-thru. Don't do it. That's not the good stuff. The flavored coffees contain lots of factory chemicals that can turn this healthy beverage into an unhealthy one. You don't want to work against your longevity. You want to lean into the things that are good for your longevity. Second, do not drink your coffee when it's too hot. Remember that old story of somebody went through the drive-thru and at McDonald's or someplace and had a super hot cup of coffee that got poured under their lap? Well, listen. Groin isn't the only thing that actually can get burned with hot coffee. Very hot beverages have been associated with a higher risk of esophageal cancer because the hot liquid damages the cells in your throat and it causes that injury and inflammation that is a setup for changes in the cells that can lead to esophageal cancer, and you do not want to get that kind of cancer. Super easy. Let your coffee cool down a bit before drinking it. Open it up, get a sense of whether it's too hot. If it's really too hot, set it aside. Let it cool off a little bit. Number 3, to get the benefit of your coffee, don't add dairy milk. If you want milk, okay, avoid the dairy because dairy fat will form soap bubbles that will bind to the polyphenols. So when you drink them, they just get flushed right through your system. You're missing out on some of these polyphenols. The polyphenols get trapped in the soap bubble and they don't get absorbed into your body as well as if you don't use that. Now, if you want to use something to cut your coffee, use a plant-based milk. Almond milk, soy milk, all fine. All right, those types of milks, not really dairy fat, no dairy fat in it, won't form those bubbles. So you actually preserve the benefits of the polyphenols. Next food, yogurt. Now, I like to have whole Greek yogurt as part of my breakfast whenever I can. Yogurt, I don't need to tell you it, it's a fermented food. And fermented foods actually benefit your gut health or healthy gut bacteria. And healthy gut bacteria means a healthy overall body because our gut controls a lot of our health dimensions. In fact, you might not know this, but one of the earliest scientific theories about longevity involve yogurt. And it came from a Nobel Prize-winning scientist named Ilya Mechnikov, who once observed that Bulgarian monks seemed to live to a ripe old age. And Mechnikov was wondering, what was it that they were doing? What were they were eating? And then he noticed that they were all regularly eating whole Bulgarian yogurt. So his hunch that he came up with is that healthy bacteria in yogurt help people live longer. Longevity, health span, right? This is, in 1800s. And modern research is proving him right. It is healthy bacteria in yogurt feeding your gut microbiome. And in large human studies and prospective groups showed that people who regularly consumed yogurt had a 10% lower risk of death from cardiovascular disease and a 5 to 10% lower risk of death from any cause whatsoever. And the best part, you don't need to eat a lot of yogurt. What was a dose? The dose associated with benefit was just 1 cup of yogurt per day. Not hard to get at all. Now, yogurt's a fermented food, which means it contains live microbes. Want to look for live microbes, live bacteria, on the container label. And that means it's a probiotic food, and you're actually eating the bacteria that can actually contribute to the healthy ecosystem that's inside our body. Now, what happens when you're feeding the ecosystem and growing the ecosystem? Well, the gut bacteria release short-chain fatty acids, which lowers inflammation. The gut bacteria helps to improve your metabolism, your insulin sensitivity, your utilization of glucose. Good gut bacteria also improves your healing from the inside out, promotes better circulation, and boosts your immune system. So you're actually able to fight infections, invaders from outside of the body, and cancer invaders inside the body as well. Okay, all of these systems really critical for a long, healthy life. How do you get the most out of yogurt? Well, first choose yogurt with live active cultures. You want to see that in the label. Second, you want to choose plain whole yogurt, not low-fat or pre-sweetened yogurt. Whole yogurt gives you the most benefit and does not raise your cholesterol. And if you want to sweeten it, do what the Greeks do. Add some seasonal fruit and drizzle a little bit of organic honey on top. Okay, final food, eggs. Eggs were once one of those wrongly feared foods. Eggs got a bad name in the 1970s, and we now know with modern research that eggs are one of Mother Nature's most complete foods. They're nutrient dense, They're packed with protein, which is super important for health span. They also contain carotenoids. These are bioactives that support eye health and brain health. And modern research tells us that eggs are actually protective when it comes to cardiovascular health. Back in the 70s, we're like, oh, eggs contain cholesterol. They're going to raise your cholesterol, right? Wrong. It turns out in large population studies that people who consume more eggs regularly had a 10 to 12% lower risk of having a stroke. And that's a big deal because about 12 million people around the world suffer a stroke every year. And more than 5 million people die from a stroke every year. So guess what? You don't need to eat a lot of eggs to get the cardiovascular benefit, the protective benefit. You only need to eat 1 egg a day. 7 days, 7 eggs a week. All right? To get the most out of eggs, here's what you do. You look for eggs that are omega-3 enriched or pasture-raised. These tends to have higher levels of beneficial fats. Number 2, choose eggs from hens that are raised cage-free. Healthier moms, healthier hens produce healthier eggs, healthier babies, right? So it makes totally sense. You want the hens to be treated well. Number 3, how you cook them matters. Boiling an egg, getting a hard-boiled egg, one of the best methods of actually getting an egg done. That's 9 to 12 minutes for a hard-boiled egg. You get a soft-boiled egg, slightly runny yolk, also good. 6 minutes. All right, it's a little skill to learn how long you cook these eggs. But again, boiling an egg, one of the healthiest ways for you to get the benefits from eggs. If you're scrambling or frying your eggs, remember just use extra virgin olive oil, not butter, okay? That way you're getting the benefits of those polyphenols we talked about earlier from extra virgin olive oil at the same time and not the saturated fat from the butter. So we talked about eggs, we talked about coffee, we talked about yogurt, walnuts, extra virgin olive oil. Now, I call this a Dr. Lee healthy breakfast. Simple way to get all of these longevity foods into your system in one convenient, tasty meal right as your day begins. If you want to learn more and understand actually what works when it comes to healthy aging, make sure you subscribe to this channel, my channel, because this is where I'm going to keep breaking it down for you. So, see you in the next video. Hey, if you like that video, then you're going to love this one. Check it out.